Since its formation billions of years ago, the Earth has seen life undergo constant change and transformation.
At the core of this change lies evolution, which explains how all living beings have descended from a common ancestor, diversifying over time to reach the present-day variety. Evolution, driven by natural processes, facilitates genetic changes in organisms and the development of adaptations.
One of the most crucial mechanisms in this process is natural selection.
Natural selection involves the transmission of genetic traits to future generations, favoring individuals with higher survival and reproductive success due to environmental conditions and competition. This mechanism plays a key role in enhancing biological diversity and the adaptability of species, allowing life to persist and thrive on the ever-changing Earth. The theory of natural selection was independently developed in the 19th century by Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. Darwin's voyage around the world from 1831 to 1836, focusing on the species and their diversity in the Galapagos Islands, significantly contributed to the development of his theory of natural selection.
Meanwhile, Wallace reached similar conclusions during his research in Southeast Asia and the Amazon rainforest.
In 1858, Wallace summarized his ideas on evolution through natural selection in a letter to Darwin, which prompted Darwin to publish his theory.
That same year, their joint paper was presented at the Linnean Society. Natural selection is based on the principle that organisms with traits better suited to their environment have higher chances of survival and reproduction. This process operates through several fundamental principles.
There is genetic variation among individuals in a population, arising from mutations, genetic recombination, and other genetic mechanisms.
These variations are passed from parents to offspring, with genetic traits persisting across generations.
Individuals better adapted to their environment have higher survival and reproductive chances, thereby passing their genes to the next generation.
Over many generations, advantageous traits become more common in the population. Adaptation is the process by which organisms adjust to their environment to enhance survival and reproductive success.
Through natural selection, certain traits become advantageous based on environmental conditions, increasing an organism's chances of survival and reproduction. For example, if a bird species can catch deeper insects due to its long beak, this trait will help the bird survive and reproduce more, making long-beaked birds more prevalent in the population over time. Although initially controversial among some scientists and religious figures, the theory of natural selection has gained broad acceptance.
Mendel's genetic studies and the advancement of modern genetic science have further solidified the theory. Today, natural selection is central to evolutionary biology and plays a fundamental role in understanding biological diversity.
Adaptations, driven by natural selection, include both physiological and behavioral traits that help organisms adjust to specific environmental conditions. For example, many animals have colors and patterns that help them hide from predators or ambush their prey, such as chameleons changing color or polar bears blending into snowy environments with their white fur. Some plants and animals have developed special physical characteristics to withstand harsh environmental conditions. For example, cacti can survive in desert environments thanks to their thick stems that store water and small leaves that reduce water loss. Behaviors such as migration, feeding, and reproduction are also part of adaptations. For instance, some bird species migrate seasonally to find food and breed in warmer climates. Environmental pressures are factors that affect the survival and reproductive chances of organisms. These pressures drive the process of natural selection and promote adaptations. The main environmental pressures include temperature, precipitation, wind, and other climatic conditions affect the survival abilities of organisms. For example, animals living in cold climates are equipped with features like thick fur or layers of fat. The abundance or scarcity of food and water sources influences the habitats and behaviors of organisms. The search for food can lead some animals to explore new areas or develop special adaptations to access resources more easily. The presence of predators affects the survival chances of prey species and leads to the development of various adaptations to escape or hide from predators. Similarly, predators develop adaptations to catch their prey. Diseases and parasites are significant environmental pressures that affect the health and reproductive abilities of organisms. Immune systems and other defense mechanisms can develop adaptations to counter these pressures.
Geographic isolation plays a crucial role in the formation of new species.
When a population is separated from others by physical barriers such as mountains, rivers, or oceans, it experiences different environmental pressures and develops different adaptations over time.
This process can eventually lead to the emergence of new species. Natural selection, one of the fundamental mechanisms of evolution, is based on genetic diversity.
This diversity is closely related to concepts such as genetic mutations, genetic drift, and the gene pool. Understanding the genetic basis of natural selection helps us comprehend how organisms adapt to environmental conditions and how species evolve over time. Genetic diversity refers to the genetic differences found among individuals in a population. This diversity provides the raw material necessary for natural selection to operate. Genetic diversity arises through several key mechanisms. Mutations are permanent changes in DNA sequences. These changes can affect the function of genes and the characteristics of an organism.
Mutations usually occur randomly and can be harmful, neutral, or beneficial.
Beneficial mutations can spread in a population through natural selection by increasing the organism's chances of survival and reproduction.
Consider a population of mice living on an island.
These mice typically have brown fur, which camouflages them with the soil and environment, protecting them from predators.
However, a random mutation occurs in one of the mice, resulting in white fur. Normally, white fur would be disadvantageous for the mouse because it makes it more visible to predators. However, let's say the island becomes completely covered in white ash due to a volcanic eruption. In this case, the white-furred mouse becomes advantageous because it can better camouflage with its surroundings. The white-furred mouse survives and increases its chances of reproduction. As a result, the white fur gene starts to spread in the population. Thus, a trait that initially arose from a random mutation becomes advantageous when environmental conditions change and spreads through the population via natural selection. Genetic recombination that occurs during sexual reproduction allows for the mixing of genes from both parents. This process leads to the formation of new gene combinations and increases genetic diversity. Gene flow between different populations can also increase genetic diversity. Migrating individuals can bring new genetic material, enhancing the genetic diversity within a population. Genetic drift is the phenomenon where gene frequencies change randomly in small populations. This process occurs independently of natural selection and can impact genetic diversity. Genetic drift can cause some genes to become more common or completely disappear from a population randomly. The gene pool refers to the total of all genes in a population. The gene pool determines the genetic diversity and evolutionary potential of a population. The greater the genetic diversity, the higher the population's ability to adapt to changing environmental conditions. Genetic drift can reduce the gene pool and decrease genetic diversity, which can lower the evolutionary flexibility of a population. Consider a population of oak trees in a forest. All the oak trees in this population are slightly different from each other. Some are taller, some have broader leaves, and some are more drought-resistant. These differences arise from the genetic diversity in the gene pool. If a drought period occurs, the drought-resistant oak trees survive and continue to reproduce. The genes of these trees become more prevalent in future generations. Thus, the genes for drought resistance increase in the gene pool. Natural selection has played a significant role in the evolutionary process of humans. Human evolution has been shaped by the interaction of various biological and environmental factors. In this process, environmental pressures and genetic diversity have been decisive in the development of the human species. Some important adaptations in human evolution include, firstly, bipedalism developed. This trait allowed humans to move more efficiently and freed their hands for tool use. Secondly, human brains grew larger. Large brains facilitated the development of cognitive abilities such as complex thinking, problem solving, and social interaction. This provided a significant advantage in hunting, tool use, and the development of social structures. Language and communication skills are also important adaptations. Language enabled humans to share information, collaborate, and pass on cultural knowledge. This led to the formation of more complex societies. Natural selection continues in modern human populations. For example, some populations have developed adaptations for milk consumption. While most people cannot digest milk after infancy, adults in some societies can. This adaptation arose in regions where dairy products are a significant food source. In regions where malaria is prevalent, individuals with the sickle cell anemia gene may be more resistant to malaria infections. Thus, carriers of this gene have higher survival and reproductive chances in areas where malaria is common. Populations living in high-altitude regions, such as Tibet, the Andes, and Ethiopia, have developed genetic changes that allow them to adapt to low oxygen levels. These adaptations increase the oxygen-carrying capacity of the blood, facilitating survival. In conclusion, natural selection is one of the fundamental driving forces of human evolution. It has played a crucial role in helping humans adapt to environmental changes and increase their biological diversity. Don't forget to subscribe for brand new scientific content.